And welcome to PCR's November Tips and Virtual Transition Times meeting. My name is Melissa Wyman, and I am PCR's Respite Care and Community Engagement Director. I will be your moderator this evening, so please feel free to send any questions or comments in the chat box below. We are so excited to be collaborating with Montgomery County Public Schools MCPS Transition Services Unit to provide an enhanced transition times program for transitioning youth, their families, and caregivers. We have our highest total of registrations of 192 for this webinar, so please continue to share our transition times programs to your friends in the community. We are delighted to offer this presentation with American Sign Language simultaneous interpretation. We will also be offering this presentation with Spanish simultaneous interpretation. The English and Spanish language versions will be archived on the PCR website Transition Times page. Just some Zoom tip reminders. We are using the webinar platform. We will wait for questions at the end of the presentation, but feel free to submit any of your questions in the chat box below. Click Show Captions to see the captions for the webinar. You must select the speaking language you would like to show. We are very fortunate tonight to have an amazing parent panel on DDA self-directed services. Each of these families have gone through different journeys to navigate the DDA system, and they're here to share their insight. Please note that this is a parent panel. They will be more than happy to answer any questions from their perspective, but if you have any specific DDA-related questions, please reach out to your DDA regional office. DDA will share a FAQ, frequent asked questions document related to the new SDS policy and manual soon. It is currently in progress and will be sent out. Tonight, the panelists include Annandale Boland, Rita Scheinberg, Charlotte Sky Ballard, and Mariana Judy. Each panelist will have a maximum of 10 minutes to speak. Following the panel, the audience members will ask questions. I will moderate the questions from the chat box and will allow the individuals to speak. They will not be seen, but will be able to hear. We will try to get to all questions, but have to end at 8 p.m. All right, so I think we should get started. So I am going to... Margie, I think you're going to, can you make me host again, or you're going to have to spotlight Rita and the ASL interpreter? Okay, perfect. I am the host now. Okay, thank you. We always love technology, don't we? All right, so let me spotlight for everyone. All right, Rita, and then just one more second. I just need to spotlight our interpreter. And then, okay, we are good to go. Rita?
Hi, can you hear me? I'm Rita Scheinberg. I've been around for a long time. I also am moderator for an e-group called MC Transitions that quite a few of you might be familiar with. So I'm always trying to get as much information as I can. Anyway, I'm supposed to talk about my experiences with self-direction. And I've been there. My son has been in self-direction since 2008. So we are long timers. Anyway, my son, Robert, is now 39. He was diagnosed with intellectual development disabilities and at about 3 years old when he was in nursery school. So we went through that all during school, and he eventually was also diagnosed with some mental health issues, which actually became quite big when he was a teenager. He spent his last 5 years at John L. Gildner Rockville, which provides state-run mental health services plus an education with MCPS. Once he got a diploma, he had emerging skills, but a significant autism spectrum disorder and mental health disabilities. One of the things we did as before he is really, really, really ask for a lot of transition services. I mean, you do get it, but you also, as a parent, need to advocate to get as much help as you can. Um, by the time, and you need to do I mean, I followed all the rules. I did as many things as I could. Like, at 18, I made sure we had Roberts apply to Social Security and get all that paperwork done. Um, we also applied to DDA as soon as we were told we could do that when he was in high school. And he got it before he left high school. He had current requests for DDA services. With and the transition youth program meant that at 21 he could start getting services. Because he was at Rika, he also got mental health services, and they told us about a transitioning youth program, which actually was pretty good for him, that he was in from 19 to 21 with a program then called Guide Independence. So he actually got to live in an apartment and starting at the age of 19, which actually was very good for him. Um, when Robert was 21, he was fortunate enough to get a housing opportunity voucher as soon as he applied. And I guess at that point, I wasn't even sure what I was going to do with it. But because he was already in a program with Guide Independence, which was a mental health program at the time, we also were able to deal with the HOC voucher. Um, he finally qualified for DDA in 2006. Because we were new to this whole DDA stuff, and even though I had gone to a lot of seminars on self-direction, I did not feel like we were ready to do that yet, because that seemed like a lot of work, and I really did not understand DDA. So we started with a traditional provider when Robert was 21. Um, Unfortunately, the DDA provider had a lot of problems staffing his apartment. Robert had his own apartment, and they just had a horrible time of getting staff for the apartment. Their pay was pretty low at that time. It was $10 an hour. Of course, that was around 2008. Still, that wasn't a lot of money. Um, Unfortunately, Robert had a mental health crisis, so the DDA provider dropped him like overnight. Um, and they told me the reason they dropped him was because at the time he only had like 20 hours of DDA services, and they didn't think that was enough to support him. And unfortunately, they told me that DDA would not just give them more hours if they said that Robert needed it. They had to drop him first. So it was a very, very painful period for Robert and us. We had months of temporary support from DDA, which was almost useless. So we stopped that support, and we just stayed with Robert's mental health um, providers until we could get DDA with a better DDA support. However, as a result of being kicked off, our son was classified into a higher category in DDA, which they called crisis resolution, which meant that he could get more hours of support. So, so there was a I guess you call a rainbow from that. Um, we tried another provider, but the second provider also was having trouble getting support for Robert. So we decided we were going to head to self-direction, where we could control the staff we had employment authority over. So we found a support broker. At that time, they really they had to walk you. You had to have a support broker at the time, and I was happy because the person was very good, and he walked me through the services and helped us get support, and told us how to look for support. So we went through some thing called Indeed. We went to Montgomery College, and we with the help of our support broker, and we interviewed people with Robert and picked several direct support providers to help Robert. Um, and that seemed to work. I mean, because Robert still was going to have his mental health issues now and then, but with self-direction, nobody's going to kick you out. It's up to you. They can't, just because he has a mental health crisis, not going to kick you out. So that seemed to be a perfect model for Robert. Um, and he continues on self-direction to this day. And for him, I think that's a good model. May not be good for everybody, but for us, it was. Um, One of Robert's important things was to live independently in his own place. So, and one of the things self-direction allowed us to do was to hire independent providers. So we hired a nonprofit integrated living opportunities who I had been following, that a wonderful lady, Mady Carney, formed for her daughter. Um, and she had a unique, she found a unique program of helping people in the community. So Robert has been with Integrated Living Opportunity since 2015. What this meant for Robert is that not only did he live in his own apartment, which he had already been doing, but because I Integrated Living Opportunity provided a community builder, he actually got friends for the first time because there were other guys that lived near him in their own apartments, and the community builder helped them become a community. So that was the great part. He actually got friends, and after a while, and he still has some of these same, especially guy friends, since he since 2015, and they still socialize together. They will come to each other's apartment. They will play games. They go to the movies together. One of the guys has drives and has a car, so they go places. So it's really, you know, kind of group has been really wonderful for him. Um, the combination of the integrated living opportunity community builders, life coaches, and his who is on Robert's self-directed waiver, so DDA is paying for it, and his staff. He participates in a lot of ILO programs and other activities in the community. So, this integrated living opportunities. Sometimes they go to. He's been to baseball games. He's been um, to hockey matches. He's been to all kinds of things in the community that I don't normally go to, and we don't have to go with him. He decides what he wants to do himself. Recently, he changed apartments. He moved from Gaithersburg, the building called the Crossings, to Fenestra, which is Rockville Town Center. Um, for anyone that has a disability, a kid with development disability, Rockville Town Center is just a wonderful place for people with disabilities. Main Street is there. There's the Art Naples is there. There's a whole lot, and it's just it has a community of a lot of things to do, and it's right on the transportation line. So I'm really happy with that community, and so is Robert. Um, Another thing that was important for Robert was a job, because he wanted to have spending money. So he's several jobs. One of them sort of panned out around 2018. But in 2020, with another Doors case and with help of which, and I know some people, Doors is sort of one of those things that works or doesn't work. But they did get him a job with Goodwill, and he's been working with them as a donation attendant in Rockville since 2020, November 2020, and he seems to like that job. He seems to be consistent, and he travels there by himself. He takes the metro and a bus to the Goodwill in on Bolingbrook Parkway. So that works out really nice. And Robert likes doing different tasks, and a donation attendant. I mean, you may not know what they do, but they come get stuff into your car. They have to sort the stuff, and they have to put them in boxes, and they have to sometimes put it on trucks. So they have a lot of different tasks they do there. And Robert is all. I mean, I've always insisted that Robert be dependable when he has a job. That's something I've insisted since he started working. I said, you got to call up your job. You have to tell him if you're going to be absent. You have to call him if you're sick. I made a big deal about how important it is to be dependable. And he learned that task, and now I don't have to say a thing to him. He knows he has to do what he has to do. And he loves seeing money in his debit account. I mean, he has a work account where he basically has control over his money. I watch his account, but he and sometimes he buys too much games. He loves game systems. So once in a while he spends too much money, but that's okay. We have and then he still gets SSDI. So we put that in a separate account because we use his separate account to automatically pay his rent and his utilities and his other services that he has. But having his own account has been very important, and he learns good and bad things about how to spend his money. Um, One of the things we got that he was very fortunate to get was a housing voucher. And that's one of those things. If you think your child, your son or daughter or adult will want to live on your own, I would apply for a housing opportunity of the voucher if you think they'll qualify. Um, because sometimes it takes. We were lucky; we got it pretty quickly when he was 21. But if even if you wait years, it's well worth it because rents are very high in Montgomery County. In Rockville Town Center, a one-bedroom apartment where Robert lives is $2,100. So without a housing voucher, it would be really a lot of money. So what they do in a voucher, in case you don't know, is they know you tell them what your income is, and they work out a percentage. So it'll be the rent will be about 30% of your income. So which is what you should be paying. So he'll pay his portion, and then now he's with Rockville Housing Authority. They pay the other rest of it. So it's worked out really well, and I made a real big stink that Robert, every month he needs to pay his rent. I mean, I monitor it, and but he's used to that, and he knows he has to pay his rent. Hiring staff. Okay, Robert has two staff to be up the week, and it's been and they help him. They'll help him with things in his apartment. They over the years he's learned to do better health and hygiene. I mean, he wasn't very good at that when he first started, but now he's pretty good, and we don't have to say anything. Um, During COVID, we got him an Echo. Alexa, I don't know, which is really nice because through Alexa, we have an Echo at home. We can call him up and have him do things. In fact, during the height of COVID, I called him up and instructed him how to do a COVID test online. So it was very useful. And it's still useful in emergencies if he doesn't answer his phone. A few years ago, he took initiative himself. He had been over 300 pounds when he um, left. Right when he left Died Independence, for some reason he gained a lot of weight, and he's now down to 200. He sort of did that on his own. I'm very proud of him for doing that. Of course, however, he's needed a lot of therapy since then because he has this worries about it. So now we have to give him therapy once a week to talk about, his weight issues, which he doesn't have anymore, but he's worried about. Okay. But he does a lot of things on his own. He'll go clothes shopping with the staff, he's pretty good at that. The only thing I help him with in clothes is shoes, because shoes are very expensive. So usually he can't afford $200 or $300 in shoes, and unfortunately that's how much they cost these days. Okay, the other thing that the waiver now, the self-directed waiver allows you to do is to have housing support. So when he wanted to move from his apartment in Gatesburg to Rockville, and we had to port his vouchers, I hired Maryland Inclusive Housing Supports to help Robert. And with the self-directed waiver, you can put funding for that in your waiver. And they were very helpful in helping us port the voucher. Unfortunately, in Montgomery County, there's two housing authorities. There's HOC, and then there's the Rockville Housing Authority that controls all the places in Rockville. So, it was helpful having Maryland Inclusive Housing to help them. And they still help him some, because I'm having him, go into his portal and pay his rent and utilities every month. I think it's something important for him to do, especially as my husband and I get older, and someday
I'm not getting older.
he won't have us. Okay. What lessons we've learned? Over the age. Yeah, don't age. Note that, when you're in school, the school age services are entitlements. However, once you get to adult services, they're not. So it's a big, and you have to apply, and sometimes they're limited. And you'll try to apply for programs and you may not be accepted. So you have to remember, once you leave high school, it's a big, there's not enough services. So you have to apply, from high school. And you should, when you're transitioning, you should apply to everything you can possibly apply to, including the HSC voucher. Um, if okay, another other thing, okay. If you think your loved one eventually wants to live on its own, I would, even if you're not sure, because you're not always sure when they leave school at not 21 or because they are immature, apply for the voucher. You can always refuse it. Um, Once you get it, they only pay 30% of the income, and you can put these vouchers anywhere in the country. So, and the neat thing about, well, the good and bad of Montgomery County is we have a high rental rate. So the amount they allow in the voucher is higher than, if you lived on Eastern Shore or something. So you can go almost anywhere in the country, probably. Um, Okay, I would, one of the things I would reach out to as many resources as you can. When Robert was leaving um high school, I realized there wasn't anything for transitioning adults to adults. So I formed an e-group, MC Transitions, and that has been very helpful. And we have like, I don't know, 650 members now, I think. And there are regularly people asking questions and people responding. So it's been a wonderful tool for me and wonderful tool, I hope, for everyone else. So another group to participate is Transition Work Group. They run some of you may have gone to some of the transition fairs. We just had one in college, I guess a learning experience, CLE. We just had a big fair. And the neat thing about there's vendors from all over that come. So you may, if you go to those
Sí,
fairs or you participate, it's
sí,
always fun. What?
No, we're having some trouble with the other Spanish interpreter getting into the channel, but keep on going, Rita. You have about 3 minutes.
Okay, okay. Also attend these transition times workshops. um, Melissa does a great job, and we always have, you can learn a lot from every single one of them. I've learned a lot from every single one of them too. And join some community groups that you can talk to other parents. Integrated Living Opportunity has a community group, even if you don't want to eventually
ya
join
puedo seguir.
ILO. What?
No, sorry, Rita. Keep on going.
Sí,
Okay. And if your loved one is in self-direction, I would highly recommend that you join the Self-Direction Advocacy Network, MarylandSDS.org. Unfortunately, DDA is always changing things. In fact, we're going through a big thing right now as they just came out with a new changes to self-direction without getting input from stakeholders in the community. And when you're in a group, you can fight it better than if you're by yourself. And Self-Direction Advocacy Network tries to advocate for everyone that's in self-direction. So anyway, that's about that's about all I had.
Okay, perfect.
Thank you.
Yes, thank you. Sorry, we're having some trouble getting the Spanish interpreter into the room. So, Seth, if you can hear me, right now we need to keep this same interpreter going, and then I'm going to try to get her into this other room.
can you,
I
can you
can hear
hear
you,
me?
but you're not in the Spanish channel. So, can you sign
And
off and sign back on? I know you can hear them, but when you talk, it's just in the English channel. Do you mind signing
okay,
off and then signing on again?
okay, sure.
Thank you so much. All right, sorry about that. We're having some uh technical difficulties. All right, so Rita, thank you so much. So next we are going to have Anne and Dell.
Hello, my name is Dell Boland. This is my lovely wife Ann sitting next to me. We have a son, David. He's 30 years old, and we've been here only 9 years, so we're a good bit unlike Rita. We're kind of new because we started out in a day program. And we only moved into self-directed services about a year ago. But I will say that so far our experience has been positive. It's been really good. We moved here from Illinois, and I will say also that the services here in Maryland are far superior to Illinois, in a lot of ways. I won't go into all that. Um, David has one full-time and two part-time caregivers.
Tiene una persona que lo cuida a tiempo completo y 2 a medio tiempo.
We've been very happy with
Y,
them,
y
and
hemos
we've had
estado
them
bastante contentos con esto,
for a long period of time.
¿no?
Um,
Sobre todo después de tanto tiempo, ¿no?
I would like to.
A mí me gustaría,
I'm not sure. Or
The Spanish is coming through.
the Spanish is coming through.
I'm so sorry.
Oh,
Yeah.
that's okay.
Okay.
Yeah.
Hold on 1 second.
Okay.
Let me just step back.
All right. How about now?
I
Okay.
think it's okay now.
Okay. I think it's okay now.
Okay.
All right. Thank you so much, everyone.
One thing I wanted to add before Dale goes on, when we moved here from Illinois, David was 21, and we were expecting to go into the school system because that's the way it worked in Illinois. You could stay till your 22nd birthday.
Yeah.
So when we got here, lo and
Porque así
behold,
funciona en Illinois.
told-
Hold on 1 second. Keep on going.
we were told, oh, no. He can't come into the school system. And we were thrust into this adult process, which we really didn't understand. And we were, I would say, blessed, lucky, fortunate that because he was 21 when we made the move, he got scooped into the transitioning youth group that year. So, but our timelines were like half of what everybody else's timelines were in order to find a program.
We had 3 months.
So we went with the traditional route, which we did for 8 years, until one day in last December, we got an email that said, we can no longer provide services to you due to lack of staff. So basically our day program was gone. And so that's when we had been toying with the idea of making the transition to self-directed. And for a number of reasons, we just hadn't done it. So that just kind of put us over the edge to do it.
Okay.
And lastly, I would say we had self-directed services by March 1st. So I felt like for us, our CSS was phenomenal and really worked things well to get us from December to March to have full services. So I think Rita mentioned it several times, the advocation, but having a good support system and people who are working with you as advocates makes all the difference in the world. Okay, so.
So we'll kind of respond to each of the items that you sent to us. And Ann just addressed item number 1 very well. I'll go on to number 2, and I'll say that the benefits we saw to using a traditional day program is that it is run mostly by others. There's not a lot of involvement required, and that was I saw that as a positive. Plus, they helped us. They actually took us in. We had 3 months to find someone. They took us in. So I don't want to disparage the folks that helped us out, but we are very happy with self-directed so far. And it also has an element of community built in. They go to a day program, there's going to be other participants at the program, so there are going to be people there. We don't have that advantage. We have to go out and find other people. We have to go to the various people around who offer services, and there are many. That's one thing that's great about this area. Ann wanted me to mention that we have there is a Facebook for self-directed that includes a lot of people in our area. We're actually we're right on the Montgomery County line. We're just inside Frederick County. So I hope we're allowed to be here.
Yes, you are.
Okay. I will say that since we've been in self-directed, David is far more engaged. They were spending a lot of time at the little place where they had the day program, and they were supposed to be getting out into the community, and they were taking them out into the community, but he really didn't do near as much as he's doing now because we have him pretty much loaded up. And the great thing about that for us, David's had some challenges. I would consider David to be moderate to low functioning autistic. He needs a lot of assistance. He is quite verbal though, and he can have some behavioral challenges at times. But I would say that since we've been in this program, we've noticed that David is maturing. He's growing, and I think that it's a result of him going to more places and having more exposure to different activities that are around. So I would encourage that. I would encourage, we're all of our young adults are different and they all have different needs, but I would say that, to the extent possible, get them out into the community because we can see a difference. Number 3, I would respond that we've been very happy with Madison Fields. Madison Fields is a farm that's located in upper Montgomery County, and it's in Dickerson. And it's a great facility. They have a jobs readiness program. We've been sending David there for a number of years, and it's been good for him. And they're around animals, and they have indoor and outdoor activities. They have a soapery that makes soap. I don't know if you've ever seen their soap offered at the various fairs and things that they have around where people have booths and sell their products. Well, we have products that we sell, goat's milk soap, and it's really nice. It feels good on your skin. I'll give them a plug there. I would say also service coordination they are the people that we have been working with since we got here. But they have been really good. We're super happy with the services we've gotten from service coordination. We started with Heather Fritz. Heather has now moved on into a supervisory role, but ever since we've been there, we've had just really, really good people. So I want to say that. And then on to number 4. Again, I would encourage folks to make the best use of the activities that are in our area, because I think we're unique in that way. When we were in Illinois, it was, they're all going to be pay to play. I mean, you have to justify having a program, and I see nothing wrong with the folks charging to have our young adults go and participate but there's so many here. It's fantastic. I don't think it's the same way in other parts of the country. We have friends in other parts of the country, and they tell us there's nothing like what we have here. And down your way in particular, there's just so many things. I say down your way, but you're only a few miles from us. We're about probably about 8 or 9 miles from Rockville. I would say that, let's see, what did I miss? Ann, you got anything you want to add to that?
No, I think that one of the things, Dale's focused on activities a lot, but what's so challenging to find, and we didn't really get in the day program, was skills building. Keeping busy is great, but you need community and you need activities that you can build on to improve independence and preparation to live, I guess more independent, repeating myself. But under self-direction, there is so much around that you can really cater the program to their desires and then also what they need. And we've just seen, and I'm repeating what Dale said, I think some growth in David with him doing more diverse, more engaging activities that he really likes. And we haven't had staffing challenges. So we'll end on this because I'm sure some of the other parents have had more experience. When we got booted from the day program, he had a very good relationship with the person who tended with him at the day program. So we hired him away. I didn't feel bad about that. I'm sorry, I just didn't. But so we had a pretty smooth transition as far as staffing. And then we built on it since. So, I do think the staffing aspect can be a challenge to find good people that stay with you. But so far, so good. I think that's it.
Okay, great. So I just want to, because I know we'll have questions in the end, but I just want to ask maybe a few questions, so that way, specifically to the family. So one of the questions was, where do you find your activities, to have group activities? Where do you find the activities?
So I have a lot of resources that I've sort of developed, and I watch a lot of different websites, and I have key people that I go to look at their monthly activities. Dale mentioned Frederick has a Frederick self-directed Facebook page that posts activities. They coordinate activities, they coordinate parties. So that's one. I use Rita's MC Transitions because a lot of people post activities and opportunities on that platform. And then I just started to learn and develop different groups like the Neighborhood of Maryland. They're down in Montgomery County. They've started an activity program. So I just, at the beginning of every month, I go through and I look at what are they posting this month, and I start developing the schedule.
Okay, great. Thank you so much. All right. So, well, welcome to Maryland. We're happy to have you and that you're having such a good experience.
And we should include UCR and PCR in that as well.
Oh, great. Yes, for sure. All right. And I know other people are saying some Sunshine, Main Street. So everyone, just so you know, please know that you will be able to save the chat and print it out. So that way the chat is always a very good way to get information, and there's questions. And I know a lot of the resources have been posted. All right. Well, thank you so much, Ann and Dale Boland. All right. So next we're going to have Mariana Judy. And
How are you?
hello, I'm going to spotlight you. All right. Perfect. All right.
I'm Mariana Judy, and we are Montgomery County residents for a long, long time. And my son is 34 now, and was in the Montgomery County school system until 2011, I think. I had to sort of think about some dates. We're way past school at this point, but after high school, which he was allowed to continue, through age 21, we did do the usual transition to an agency. We had, as Rita had mentioned, the transition teams in Montgomery County set us up to get all of those important things done while Ben was still in high school, so that as soon as he was out of high school, pretty much, there may have been a little bit of a gap, but he transitioned into I guess you'd call it a day program. And we had high hopes for the program. It was interesting, and Ben seemed to enjoy it, but Ben's on the autism spectrum. His intelligence is normal. He is mostly impaired through speech. So he's really not able to speak in a way that without using some sort of device to help him communicate. He can, but it's physically difficult. Just the physical mechanism of speaking is difficult for him. So what we found over time was that the place was really geared more towards those people who really needed a lot of care, who needed even help with feeding or toileting and things like that. It really wasn't designed for someone who has the ability to, think for himself and take care of himself fully, and to have a job. So he was sort of directed to an area of the program that got him out of the building and doing some activities that were job related. And he had a job coach who actually put an application for him on his behalf to work at an Auntie Anne's pretzel place in the mall. And they actually wanted to hire him. So I talked with the owner of that organization, and Ben's job coach through the agency was going to support him at the job. But after about 2 weeks, the owner said, no, this isn't working out. It's just not working out. And I said, well, I am a teacher. By trade, I was in the Montgomery County public school system as a teacher. And can I come and observe what's happening? Maybe I can help in some way, and just sort of see what's going on. And so the owner let me come in, and I was blown away by what Ben was able to do in this job. And after 2 weeks of training, he was like making pretzels. He was like doing all the stuff he was supposed to do, but the business owner wanted him to be able to do it completely independently, without any guidance. And I could see that the job coach was actually supporting him too much. And it started to occur to me that it was going to be really hard for Ben in the situation he was in to really have a job, which I think he was capable of having. And I was like so impressed by what he was able to do, that we sort of gently transitioned him into self-direction. We were able to get some cooperation with the agency he was in, the day program, to allow him to take a pastry training course with a local bakery. And he completed that. And again, I could see all the talent there, but I could see it was still going to be a real challenge for him to have a job the way he wanted to have one. So I was in a transition myself at the time. By now we're talking like 2016. And so we got Ben into the self-direction, and with the goal of us having our own business, where he would make a product and we'd sell it at farmers markets. And I named the business Tag Team Kitchen. So I was helping Ben to learn how to make dough for pizzas, and then we would bake pizza crusts and sell them at farmers markets locally. And what that did was provide him with a really organic outlet to be a part of a community. And we've been doing that since 2016. So in terms of self-direction and employment or employees that work for Ben, he has a person. It's not really a job coach anymore, because he really doesn't need a job coach. It falls under the heading of supported employment. So there's a person on our staff who provides support for Ben when he needs it, or just even an outlet for him to communicate what he's doing while he's working. And the modeling that takes place encourages Ben to do more. So Ben is responsible for making all of the pizza dough. He also knows how to make sauce and help with shredding of cheese, packaging products, and then he helps with setup at farmers markets and greets customers. And he has lots and lots of friends because of that. He also has personal support. We don't feel like Ben, we hope that one day he'll be able to live independently, but for now, he has a separate apartment in our home, and a separate entrance and a kitchenette where he can prepare food for himself. And we have personal support staff for him that help him run errands when he needs it, take him on outings, places he likes to go and things he likes to do, and help him keep his apartment clean. And one of the personal support people in particular is really great at encouraging Ben to use language, express himself fully. And so a lot of things are working pretty well, but it took us a lot to get there. And it was a lot of maintenance in the meantime. Now, just as in addition to what I was saying before about the business, we have a brick and mortar in Kensington and a commercial kitchen, a shop, and we still go to farmers markets, but people look forward to coming into the shop here and seeing Ben and miss him when he's not here. And some of those customers have become friends. They do outings with Ben as well. So he really has, we've paved a way in maybe a different direction. He does do therapeutic recreation through Montgomery County Rec Department. He's been doing that since he was in middle school, and has made lots of friends. Some of the staff that works for Ben now, he met through the therapeutic recreation department, and some of them is staff that we met through other families, and some are friends of family or neighbors who have come and joined us as in supporting Ben. So it was the last point that I think I would like to make, and I was requested to make comments on, is that self-direction is a lot of work. I mean, I think all of it is a lot of work, but you're managing a staff of people for your child. And it's great when maybe other parents find that they can be a little more hands-off, but I do feel still, he's 34, that we have to be available for the staff. We have to help make, arrange things differently or add, rearrange schedules sometimes, or just administrative stuff, because we at first had a support broker, but we don't anymore. So I'm essentially the support broker, and I'm managing all those things in addition to managing the business. And sometimes it all runs really smoothly, but there can be times when it's way more hands-on and there's a lot of work and paperwork to do. And that's something that you have to take into consideration, whether you might have the time as a parent to take that on. But it's been, the best possible thing. I don't even know if we would still be getting funding from EDA if it weren't for self-direction, because it's for us the way to go. We are making our own goals for Ben, and encouraging him to be, always improve himself, and work hard to have a fulfilling life. And we're that's what we're doing, and that's what he's achieving. So we just continue to set new goals and move forward, and we can do that. Self-direction is really great in that regard. It is not a walk in the park. It is work, but worth it if you have the time and want to put that energy into it. I think it's worth it.
Oh, great. Thank you so much, Mariana. We have a few questions and then I'll open up the questions for everybody. But what is the name of the shop in Kensington? Everybody wants to know.
Tag Team Kitchen. And we were at the Kensington Farmers Market for 7 seasons. And now we're at the Petworth Farmers Market on Saturdays and in Greenbelt on Sundays. And then the shop is open Tuesday through Saturday, 1 to 6 p.m. I appreciate the support. Tag Team Kitchen comes from the way that I taught him how to follow the steps of a recipe. Basically, I would do a step and he would do a step until he was able to do it all by himself. And then tag team also is that we're preparing components for pizza, and you take it home and you finish the pizza yourself. And I also here, because we have this really nice facility, I offer the kitchen to other small businesses when we're not using the kitchen. So we're sharing our kitchen with other small businesses. And then, of course, I also have other staff that has various abilities and various neurodivergencies. And so we're trying to support other people in the community who want to have a fulfilling life as well. So that's what we do.
Oh, that's so great. Okay, fantastic. So what I'm going to do now, Sky, who was the fourth panelist, wasn't able to make it tonight. So it will just give us a little bit more time for questions. So I am going to spotlight Rita and Anne, and then I am going so we have a few people with their hands up, so I'm going to let them ask a question. So I'm going to allow you to talk. First, we'll have Mary. So if you're going to talk, if you can unmute. Mary, do you see I'm asking you to unmute and you have talking? All right, so let's go. I will go to, okay, so I'm going to disable talking. How about, I'm sorry if I'm saying your name wrong, but Sharmista?
Hi, this is Sharmistha and Sachita Gupta. And I have been hearing all these 3 wonderful people share their experience with self-direction. I have a son, Keshav, who's 37, and he has been in several, jobs, and but for last 2 years, we have moved to self-direction, and he's doing good. But I'm very impressed the last caller, Mariana, and would like to know a little bit more, because he's always want to do his own business or do something. And he works with me now. We have taken him, and he's working in my office 4 or 5 hours a day. But he wants to do his own, and now he's slowing down a little bit in that, but I think his spirit is still there. Before, he would make his own flyers, and he has his own company name, but nothing moved. But I'm very inspired by Mariana's explanation. So we would like to come and see your business and talk to you, bring cash up, see, and maybe you can inspire us to do something. So he's Down syndrome, but he's physically totally fit. His verbal skills are not bad. They may be, and he's very computer savvy. He can make all the flyers. He can do anything on computer, do any research, anything. So I think it will be good. And then he had employments in stores and this, but he get bored after a few because there's no challenge to those employments. So maybe that's why you can give us some tips now, and maybe we can come back and talk to you one day, bring Kesha with you, me and my wife. Yeah.
Sure. You know, we're maybe in the next few weeks, we're obviously next week is Thanksgiving, but
No,
and
there's
then
no rush. There's no rush.
we're getting ready for a holiday market, but
Correct.
later in December, feel
Yeah.
free to come by anytime.
Yeah. So what's the address of your business?
It's 10453 Metropolitan Avenue.
Do you
And
mind
what's
putting it in the chat?
Oh, sure.
Yes. So if you can just put in the chat, make sure that it clicks on everyone, and then we'll put it on
yeah,
the
that's
chat.
good. And any phone numbers we can call you before we come?
The best way to contact me
Or
is email. It's tagteamkitchen@gmail.com. I'll put that in the, I'll put
Yes.
even the, I'll put the name of the, my website. I'll put all those contacts in
Yeah, that would
the
be
chat
wonderful.
box.
Yeah, that's what my question was in chat box. Please give some contact information. So, and it can be in January, it could be in December, it doesn't matter. I mean, I know everybody's busy during holidays. Yeah.
Okay, great. Thank you so much. All
Thank
right.
you very much.
So we have a few, so just so you know, I know there's a lot of families that are from different age groups. And so you are aware of lots of different levels for DDA. So, so we have a few questions. The one question that was asked is, what is the role of the support broker in this process to help families set up the plan? So regarding, right, for once you switch over to self-directed services, what is the role of the support broker, and did you get a support broker? Are you your own support broker? Can you elaborate a little bit on that? If you want to start, Anne?
Sure. We did, we do have a support broker, and I know some people do that themselves. We thought transitioning into the program brand new that we would be served best by having a support broker. The major part of our planning and setting up our budget when we made the transition was done between us and primarily our CSS, although we did meet collectively. But the real, what is my individual need? How do I, where does that fall in the budget? That was really us and our CSS. But the support broker really, I kind of call them like the HR and the financial oversight person. She can help find staff, she can help interview staff, and she helps when I have challenges with the financial management system that I'm in. So she chases down like reimbursements, makes sure all that happens, gets submitted, gets paid, and is reconciled. And she keeps up with the qualifications of the staff, and really is kind of like a mini HR department.
Okay, great. Thank you. What about you, Rita?
I think the support broker is very important. Things have changed over the years. Back when Robert started, the support broker had a huge role in developing the plan. The CCS was not in there at all. Now you're required to go through the CCS to do the plan. But usually when we do the plan, I have a support broker there too. So I have the CCS, the support broker, and me and Robert maybe. when we redo his plan every year, because I think that brings to the because the CCS is now they're not only dealing with self-direction, they're also dealing with traditional services. So they have a lot to deal with. So, I mean, I think actually my CCS really appreciates when the support broker is there, because she can, make sure that we get everything we need to get. So, I believe in support brokers, and I'll probably always have one. For one thing, I'm getting older. I'm 75 now, and I may not be here forever. So I need to get as many people, helping my son as possible. And that's one of the reasons we use integrated living opportunity, because I'm hoping they'll be the glue to, keep all his services together when we can't do it anymore.
Okay, great. And you, Mariana? Oh, hold on
Sorry,
one second. Oh,
I unmuted. The question was about support broker.
yes.
Initially, it was required. We had to have a support broker, I believe. In the very beginning, I was allowed to act as Ben's job coach and actually be paid for that. And I didn't keep that money. I just put it into the business. But then at some point, I think they said it was optional. And by then I was just running the business. I wasn't Ben's job coach anymore. And I just transitioned into, it's the role of the support broker in that I'm helping to make sure Ben has his staff lined up doing the things that they need to do for him, or if we have a turnover, which we haven't had a whole lot of, I help to find somebody else and then onboard them with Ben's financial management service. So I do that now. I was helping out so much to do it anyway. I just figured I'll go ahead and do it.
Okay, great. And maybe, anybody can answer this, but where do you find support brokers? So I think a lot of families that, are interested in getting started with self-direction wants to know a little bit more about support brokers. So is there a place or a recommendation to find one?
DDA has a list of
Yeah.
support brokers. At least they used to have a list of support brokers. And you can also ask for by word of mouth. I mean, you could go on MC Transitions and ask for people to recommend support brokers, or other listservs. Because sometimes people that other parents are the best recommendations. So,
and really anybody can serve as a support broker. There's coursework or some sort of certification, and anyone can do it. So if you have a family friend or a distant relative or whatever, a trusted neighbor, it can really be anybody as long as they're willing to do the certification.
Okay, great. And then, so somebody did say alert if a family member serves as a support broker, she or he cannot also serve as a paid staff.
Right.
Okay. So, and then another question was, and if this maybe doesn't exist, maybe this is something that we could do, but when starting self-directed services, is there a checklist of things that you would recommend, or is there somewhere where they have step by step what you would need to do?
On the DDA website, there's a self-direction handbook, which has a lot of information. There's forms, there's, everything from how to pay your people, roles and responsibilities. I wouldn't necessarily call it a checklist. It'd be really nice to have a simplified roadmap of here's what you do and how you proceed through. But there is a wealth of information there. So that's one place that I know of.
Great. Um, all right. Does anybody have, so this is a great time, for anyone to ask some questions. So does self-direction mean providing care at home for the child? So I think that some people are a little confused about exactly the difference or what self-directed services is. So we've talked a little bit about it, but is there, something that you can share that you have seen the really good thing about doing self-directed services versus the traditional?
You're setting goals. Like you don't just, you know, do whatever you want. You have to say, these are the things we want to work on, and this is how we're going to achieve them. And this is why we need the budget in order to do that. So again, that's a lot of hands-on work. And sometimes you don't necessarily know that right away. It takes time to develop that, but that's that should be something that a support broker might help with, and the coordinator of community service can help with that. There is, when you do the person-centered plan, it's pretty much a questionnaire, and they say, under these categories, what are your goals? You know, under employment, what are your goals? Under, you know, independence, what are your goals? You know, in terms of, you know, taking care of yourself. In terms of living in your community, what are your goals? And you have to answer those questions. And that's basically how you come up with your plan. What does your individual need to get to, you know, to continue to grow, and how can the funding then help with that? Do you agree, the other panelists, did I accurately
Mhm.
explain that?
I think it's different for everyone, you know. I mean, every participant has different needs.
Right.
So I mean, that's the beauty of self-direction. You're not pegged into one little hole, which Robert didn't work very well. He didn't peg into any one, you know, agency. In certain ways he's independent, in other ways he needs a lot of support. So, you know, that's the great thing about self-direction, because you can do it at whatever the participant needs. And like we use integrated living opportunities, and, you know, it's great because they provide the community builder, and they provide other things so he can live independently in community, which is his goal, you know, with support. So everyone here, I can see, has a little different, you know, direction, and that's the beauty of it. It's whatever the participant needs or what his strengths and issues are. So he
Yeah.
or she. There's probably a lot more boys.
Yes.
There is a lot more guys than girls.
Yeah, true.
There's a question asking, I think, about did self-directed services help to pay for my
Yes,
business?
that was the next question.
Yeah, no.
Yeah.
You know, we started very, very small out of our own kitchen, doing basically as a what they call a you know, cottage business, and just one step at a time. And we, you know, we did not borrow any money. We started very small and tried to have the business pay for it. Yeah, I mean, and if I earned any money during that period of time when I was his job coach, and there was another person who was the support broker, again, I just put that into the business. But that was I could have kept that money, I guess, for myself. But no, they're not going to help with any of that. That was our call. It was something that I was in a transition, Ben was in a transition, so we did it together.
That's great. Okay, great. Is there also, if anybody wants to ask a question by Mike, you can just put your hand up and I can allow you to speak. And then Nina said the PCP wants goals that involve volunteering, working, and are being out in the community. So yes, does anybody have any other questions? So when we're seeing if there's any more questions, so what is something that you have realized when you did self-directed services that is a challenge that you had to overcome that you would love to share with another family, maybe some advice or something that you would have done a little bit differently and then had to, somehow get through it.
Hmm. It's just, it's an ongoing thing and a constantly changing dynamic. And I still feel like it's not like self-direction has landed even in a rooted spot yet. It is still, they are still developing their own protocols at DDS, and they're still tweaking the program, or I shouldn't say the program, but the way it, the systems that they use internally. They even the financial management services has been a constant shift and changing dynamic. So it is just, it's ever evolving. It's not a settled thing. We're all still really just keeping our heads above water.
Yes.
Yeah, and DDA just came up with a new plan,
Right, right.
which is driving everyone crazy. I mean, it's one of the things that worries me is, since I don't know when it's going to change, who's going to be able to manage this when we're gone? That's,
Yeah.
I'm hoping.
And that was actually one of the questions was what is your long-term plan when you are not able to manage self-directed services? My son will outlive me and I need him cared for.
Well, that's why I'm using integrated living opportunities, and I have actually I had the staff and I gave them some of my staff, so which is good. So I have one of them as a day-to-day administrator now. So I'm hoping that integrated living opportunities will be able to be Robert's go-to when I'm too old or gone. And then I'm also hiring they call it Plan of Maryland or Maryland First Choice, because you also need financial management.
Right.
So
Yeah.
I have them to manage his money because that's not something I alone are going to do. So, because, that's another issue. He can't totally manage his money. Somebody's going to have to manage his SSDI and also make sure he gets renewed every year, because that's a big deal. I hire somebody to because he works part-time, which is complex. When you work, and you have SSDI, you have to prove it that you still need it. So,
Right.
it does worry me. I haven't quite figured it out. And I guess in that way, that's where your traditional services is easier. Is that they just take care of the person.
Yes.
But I think this is a better life for Robert.
Yes.
We have had the same discussions. I mean, when you look at the traditional model, ultimately that does include the housing piece and the oversight piece if you're not around. But I think there's ways you can structure things like you're doing, Rita, where, you take all the different pieces of being their guardian or their overseer or their support person, and you have to plug that in somewhere into their life so that ultimately when you're not here, it sustains itself. But I mean, the question's a good one. We haven't had a lot of runtime with the program. I mean, it's been just under a year. But I would say that I agree It is a lot of work. If you know, but you're like taking responsibility, complete responsibility for overseeing the structure and support around your loved one. And, you know, with their best interests in mind. And that's a lot of work. It's a lot of work to just become knowledgeable. It's a lot of work just to do it. But I would say that it has been great for our son. I mean, it is the right fit because you can just tell he's more engaged, he's happier, and you know the things we have him involved in are moving him forward. And we just don't feel like he's stagnating even at 30. He's continuing to grow every day. So
My son's 39, so and I see him continue growing.
yeah,
The issue with my son is he also has some mental health issues. He's fairly high functioning, so he doesn't take a lot of crap, and that's what happened. And he got kicked out of a traditional, provider because he's not going to take crap,
right, right.
whether right or wrong, he's not going to. So he got kicked out.
He advocates for himself.
Yeah, so that's the reason why this is better, because integrated living opportunity, they understand Robert, and there's a person there that knows how to work with him, and to discuss him and discuss the opportunities. And he's always included. So, it's just it just fits him better than a traditional provider.
Yeah. And Emily brought up a good point in the chat that said it's a lot of work with the traditional model too, because some of the service providers don't do what they promise to do. And so, this is kind of, you all are examples of it that kind of, you're advocating anyway. So now you're able to kind of take the reins, even though it's so much work, but it seems like ultimately it's working out for your loved ones.
Yeah, I agree with you. I was more stressed when he was in a traditional provider.
And I would say, I kind of emphasize, we've been on the startup of this. And I see every month or as time goes by, it gets easier because you kind of get a rhythm. And then, of course, there's going to be adjustments with behaviors or things that happen or whatever, but when you get your process rolling, it's easier. So it's not overly burdensome that, I don't want to turn anybody away from it by saying it's a lot of work. But I mean, there's a startup cost with everything, like your business, there's a startup cost. But
I think Nina made a comment in the chat that I think is important. There, all those things in the typical agency model. Yes, there are all those things involved. There's a person-centered plan and everything. But it is kind of interesting to not be on the outside of that and having other people totally take care of it, but to really understand it, you really internalize it when you're the one really generating the goals yourself instead of having someone else do it for you. There's this sort of the knowledge is power behind that feeling for me. Just reality. It's all hard, really. It's just really all going to be hard, and it's up to families to decide what's best for their loved one, and whether self-direction is the right thing or not.
So just to clarify, one of our attendees asked, what do parents have to pay out of pocket for the startup, or is that paid by someone else? So if you do self-directed services, there is no fee. It's just a lot of time. They pay with time, not money. So it's
I love that comment.
Yes. And maybe you can answer this. How long, especially since you, have been doing this less than a year, how long does it take to create a plan, get approval for a budget, hire staff, etc.?
So we already had a PCP in place because we were in a day program. So when we exited out of the day program, we had to recreate the PCP. Now our strategy was, let's not make very many changes to this PCP because we were going to come into our next cycle So let's not try to rock the boat. Let's try to just get everything switched over to community development hours and personal support hours and the reflection of self-directed services. And David has a behavioral plan, so we had to have that and a nurse. So we went with that and didn't change any of his goals initially. And we got our PCP approved and in place in 3 months. Less than 3 months, 2.5 months, which I felt was pretty good. Then we, as far as hiring staff, I think I mentioned we hired his primary community person from his day program. So that transition was very quick. And then we added 2 additional part-timers just over time. I think we had one in about maybe about in June and then another one in August. So that part went pretty quickly for us. And then our PCP changed over. Our new year started July 1st. And so then that's when we went in and we did more precision work on what we want his new goals to be. And that got approved without any problem. But we didn't try to do it all at once. We kind of took, let's just convert and don't change much. And then when we get to our next cycle, really kind of, polish that the way we wanted it.
Okay, that's great. What about for you, Mariana?
The
Yeah, for the plan. When you do the plan, does it take a long time or?
I think when we initially signed up for self-direction, it took a few months, even though he was in a day program. It may have been 4 or 5 months. It's a long enough ago that I'm not really sure that I remember how long it took, but you have to expect it's going to take a few months maybe I would say on average 4 months. That's just a ballpark. I honestly don't know how long it takes these days. But hopefully if it's a situation where the loved one is still in school, and you wanted to go straight from that into self-direction, hopefully all of that's you're just going to keep on moving in that direction and you're not taking any detours. But if you're changing gears, I don't know.
Okay, great. So before we end it, and this session, does anybody have last minute questions? Okay, do you pay any extra aid support outside of directed coverage? Do you use any respite aid coverage through the Montgomery County with ARC? Does anyone have to?
Now they mentioned respite. Respite is, you can get respite hours authorized in your plan if your loved one lives with you. So you can get those services covered either through, hiring an individual for respite or using a respite group.
Okay, great. Thank you so much. All right. So, thank you so much. Honestly, it was so nice to have a parent panel, and really see the perspective, kind of from the parents' perspective. And I know that, for a lot of you and a lot of the families, self-directed services really has been life-changing, and you all have really done an amazing job and great stories, and just thank you so much for being here.
Thank you.
Yes.
Sure.
Of course. So, looking ahead, our virtual transition times meeting will be held once a month from now until June. All meetings will continue to be offered with simultaneous ASL in Spanish and archived on the PCR website. The next meeting will be focused on college night and will be held on Wednesday, December 4th at 6:30. We will have a variety of college opportunities, including Montgomery College Disability Support Services, graduate transition and challenge programs, and accessing financial aid. Hope to see you then. Thank you so much and happy Thanksgiving.